All right, let's dive into MicroStrategy. This one's been on our radar for a while, and you guys sent in a ton of stuff on them.
It is a fascinating story.
Really fascinating. It's this company that's basically gone all in on Bitcoin. So is it a genius move or a super risky gamble?
Well, it's interesting to see how they transitioned, right?
Yeah.
From a data analytics software company to, as you said, basically a Bitcoin holding company.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a complete identity shift.
Totally. It all started back in like 2020, right?
Yeah, 2020.
When their CEO, Michael Saylor, just decided,
Yeah.
Cash is trash.
Yeah.
Inflation's coming.
Right.
We're going all in on Bitcoin as like the ultimate store of value.
Absolutely. I mean, they just jumped in head first.
Head first, yeah.
Their initial purchase was 21,454 Bitcoins.
What?
Worth $250 million at the time.
Huge. I mean, that was like a shock to the system, I feel like.
It was a statement. Yeah.
Big statement. And they haven't stopped, right?
Oh, no.
They just keep buying and buying.
They kept going.
And now they're sitting on, what is it, over 478,000 Bitcoins?
Yeah, over 478,000. I mean, can you imagine?
It's wild, averaging like $65,000 a coin.
Right.
Which is crazy.
And here's the thing. They now hold over 2% of all Bitcoin in existence.
It's like owning a digital Fort Knox or something.
It's mind-boggling. And it does make you think, right?
Yeah.
The implications of one entity.
Right.
Controlling such a massive chunk of Bitcoin, like, can they influence the market?
Yeah.
Are they just along for the ride? The potential for market manipulation can't be ignored.
It's true. It's a whole another can of worms for sure. But, let's zoom in on their stock, MSTR.
Yes, let's.
Because the technical analysis we have here, and this is the stuff you sent over, which is so cool, by the way, it shows this symmetrical triangle pattern.
Right.
And I always think of symmetrical triangles as like, what does that even mean?
Well, they're interesting symmetrical triangles. They're kind of like a pressure cooker for the stock. So the price kind of bounces between these two converging trend lines.
Okay.
And it signifies this period of consolidation where the market's kind of like, do we break out or do we break down?
Right. Yeah, so it's like stuck.
It is stuck. It's like decisions.
Right.
Which way are we going to go?
So in this case, it looks like, and I'm just looking at this chart, and again, I'm not a financial advisor,
Right.
But it looks like we've got support around $300.
Yeah.
Like that's the floor.
That's holding it up.
And then up at like 350 to 360. That's like the ceiling.
Yeah, that's the resistance. It's struggling to break through.
So we're just waiting for something to happen, some catalyst to make it go boom or bust.
It's waiting for that push, that energy.
Yeah.
To say, okay, which direction are we going? So if MSTR, it goes above $350.
Right.
With strong volume behind it.
Okay.
That's a good sign, right?
Bullish.
Bullish, exactly. The bulls are in control. We could see a surge.
Okay. But what if it goes the other way?
Right.
And it drops below 300?
Then we start to worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, a drop below 300, again, with strong selling volume, that's a bearish breakdown, right? The sellers are in control.
Then what?
Well, then we could see the price, retesting those previous support levels.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe back down to 250 or even lower.
Yikes. Now, one thing the analysis mentioned is decreasing trading volume during this, consolidation period.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that tell us?
Well, declining volume, it often signals indecision.
Okay.
So traders are like holding their breath. They're like, I don't know which way this is going to go. I'm going to wait for a clear direction before I jump in.
So everybody's on the sidelines right now.
Yeah, they're on the edge of their seats.
Okay.
Watching closely.
All right. Well, we can't talk about technical analysis without talking about moving averages.
Of course not.
Because sometimes I'm like, I need a decoder ring for these things. Like, what are you even talking about?
They could be confusing.
So break it down for me, in layman's terms. Like, what are they and how do they apply here?
Sure. So moving averages, think of them as like smoothing out the noise.
Okay.
Of those daily price fluctuations. They help us see that bigger picture. So here, the 50-day moving average, it's below the current price, which hints at some short-term weakness. But the 200-day moving average is way down there. So that suggests a longer-term uptrend is still in play.
Okay, so it's like a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag.
Short term, who knows, maybe a little shaky.
Yeah.
But long term, maybe bullish.
Potentially.
But that's all dependent on, staying above that 300.
Exactly.
If it goes below that, then it's a whole nother story.
Yeah, if we break below 300, the bullish thesis really starts to weaken.
Now, here's where things get even more interesting. MicroStrategy recently announced this $2 billion offering of something called convertible senior notes.
Ah, yes.
And to be honest,
that sounds complicated.
It sounds very complicated. Can you, ELI 5 this?
Sure. So imagine it as a hybrid. It's like part loan, part stock option.
Okay.
So basically, they're borrowing money, but the lenders, they have this option to convert their debt into company stock down the road.
So why would they do that? Like, what's the advantage?
Well, it's a way for them to raise capital without immediately diluting those existing shareholders.
Okay.
They're kicking the can down the road.
Okay.
They get the cash now, but the impact on shareholders, that's delayed.
Right, right. But there's got to be a downside, right?
Of course, there's always a catch.
What's the catch?
Dilution. So if a bunch of those note holders decide, you know what, I want stock instead of my money back,
Yeah.
it can increase the number of shares outstanding.
Right.
And it means each existing share is worth a little bit less.
Oh, okay. So less of the pie.
Exactly, less of the pie.
Okay. So then that could put downward pressure on the stock price.
Absolutely.
So it's like this uncertainty.
Yeah, it's this big question mark hanging over the stock.
Are they going to convert? When are they going to convert?
If they convert, when? And that makes the stock price jumpy.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you add in crypto volatility on top of all that.
Oh yeah, the general market volatility, that adds a whole other layer of risk.
But, I mean, couldn't this also be like a sign of institutional confidence?
It's for
But
what?
big players are willing to get involved.
They're putting money in, but we have to look at it critically, right?
Yeah.
Are they betting on MicroStrategy's long-term success, or are they just trying to get a piece of that Bitcoin action?
Yeah, good point. And then, we have to think about their debt.
Right.
They have a lot of debt, and that's growing.
It is growing.
And if Bitcoin tanks,
Uh-oh.
they're in trouble.
Big trouble. It's like doubling down on a bet. They've amplified their exposure.
Right.
So if Bitcoin goes up, they're golden.
Then laughing.
But if it goes down, the consequences could be disastrous.
It's high stakes, high reward. So what are we looking at here?
Right. What are the potential outcomes?
Is this a happy ending, or is this like a cautionary tale?
We've got to explore the possibilities,
Yeah.
the different scenarios.
We'll do that in the next part. Stay tuned.
Stay with us.
I mean, it's a risky move, right?
Oh, incredibly risky.
It's like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, it really is. They've bet the farm on Bitcoin, essentially.
Yeah.
Huge potential rewards, but
Huge risk.
massive risk.
So for someone who's trying to understand this, what are the financial red flags to watch for?
Well, first and foremost, that debt.
Yeah.
That mountain of debt we were talking about.
Yeah.
Those convertible notes.
Right.
That adds this whole other layer of complexity to their financials.
So it's not just like Bitcoin going up.
No.
It's, can they handle the debt if it goes down?
Exactly. Because high debt levels, those can really weigh a company down, especially in a market as volatile as crypto.
Right.
I mean, we've seen Bitcoin go through some crazy swings.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's a major crash, I mean, can MicroStrategy actually weather that storm?
Yeah, that's the question.
That is the big question. I mean, it depends, right?
On what?
How deep the crash is, how long it lasts.
Right.
And, how well MicroStrategy can manage that debt.
Like all eyes are on Sailor.
He's the captain steering the ship
Yeah.
into uncharted waters.
Yeah, big time. But, okay, we've talked about the risks.
Right.
What about the rewards?
The reward.
If this actually works, if Bitcoin goes to the moon,
Right.
what does that mean for MicroStrategy?
I mean, if Bitcoin really does become like this global reserve currency,
Yeah.
MicroStrategy, they're sitting on a gold mine.
Really?
Yeah. The stock price, it could go through the roof. Early investors,
Cha-chin.
yeah, they'd be laughing. It's like a lottery ticket, in a way.
Yeah, but with a lot more math involved.
Yes, a lot more calculations.
Yeah, for sure. So what are the analysts saying about all this?
Well, as you might expect, there are some mixed opinions.
Okay.
Some analysts, they see MicroStrategy as a visionary,
Oh.
leading the way.
Like a trailblazer.
Exactly. They believe the long-term potential outweighs the short-term risks.
So they're the optimists.
They are the optimists.
Okay, and then there's the other side.
Right. You have the skeptics.
The doubters.
The doubters. They're worried about the sustainability of this whole thing.
Yeah.
They think, what if Bitcoin fails? This could be a disaster.
So they're more cautious.
Much more cautious. And I think it's important for investors to consider both perspective.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Yeah.
Think about your risk tolerance.
Okay.
What are your investment goals?
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
No, not at all.
All right, so we've got the bulls, we've got the bears.
Right.
But let's zoom out a little bit and look at the competition.
Okay.
Who else is in this game?
Well, on the traditional software side,
Yeah.
they're up against some giants.
Like who?
Oracle, SAP, Salesforce.
Yeah, big players.
Big players, deep pockets, tons of products.
Yeah, so that's a tough battle.
Very tough, especially as they shift more towards this Bitcoin focus.
Right. What about other companies that are kind of like following their model?
Well, there are a few with significant Bitcoin holdings,
Okay.
like Tesla, for example.
Okay.
But no one has gone all in like MicroStrategy.
So they're in their own lane?
They are. It's a unique position, and it's attracted a certain type of investor.
What kind of investor?
The ones who want Bitcoin exposure,
Okay.
but without having to deal with exchanges, wallets, all that.
So it's like a bridge between the stock market and crypto.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting strategy.
Very interesting. But the question is,
Yeah.
can they maintain that?
Can they keep it up?
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about a lot.
We have.
Their financials, the risks, the reward,
Competition.
the competition. So what's the key takeaway here?
I think the most important thing to remember is that MicroStrategy is not just a software company anymore. It's a leveraged bet on Bitcoin,
Yeah.
which means it's inherently risky,
Yeah.
but it also has huge potential upside.
It's a roller coaster.
It is a wild ride.
So how do you decide if you want to get on that ride?
You got to ask yourself some tough questions.
Like what?
First, are you comfortable with risk?
Okay, yeah.
This is not a stock for the faint of heart.
Right.
If you can't handle big price swings,
Yeah.
you should probably steer clear.
Stay away.
Stay away. And you really need to understand Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Don't just invest in MicroStrategy because you've heard, oh, Bitcoin's the future.
Right. Do your homework.
Do your homework.
Yeah, yeah.
Understand the technology, the market,
The risks.
the risks, all of it.
Okay, so comfort with risk, understand Bitcoin. What else?
Stay informed.
Okay.
The crypto landscape, it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's fast moving.
New regulations, new competitors, new technologies.
Right.
You've got to stay ahead of the curve.
So it's not passive.
No, it's very active.
You got to be paying attention.
Absolutely.
All right, so investing in MicroStrategy is like running a startup.
In a way, yeah.
It's constant work.
You got to be attentive. You've got to be adaptable
Okay.
and embrace the uncertainty.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've explored a lot with MicroStrategy.
A lot, yeah.
We've looked at their financials,
Their risks.
competition. It's this company that's like really, they're pushing the envelope, right?
They are. It's a very unconventional approach.
And they're kind of rewriting the rules. But where do they go from here?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah. What's the future for MicroStrategy? And for investors, too.
Well, as we've said, it all goes back to Bitcoin.
Right. Bitcoin is key.
It's the linchpin. If Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy probably goes up with it.
Right.
But if it crashes, it could be a very, very rough ride.
Yeah. High risk, high reward, all hinging on the crypto market, which nobody can predict.
It's wild world, crypto.
It is. So let's play this out, right? What are some scenarios we might see?
Okay, so one scenario. Bitcoin really does become this global digital gold standard.
Okay.
Like the decentralized safe haven
Yeah.
that people have been talking about. If that happens,
Yeah.
MicroStrategy could be seen as this pioneer.
Like ahead of their time?
Exactly. They saw the potential. Their stock could become a blue chip asset, highly sought after.
That's the dream scenario.
It is. Validation that their gamble paid off.
But okay, let's look at the flip side.
Okay, the what if.
The what if Bitcoin fails?
Right, what if the bubble bursts?
Yeah. Or there's regulation that just kills it.
Or something else entirely.
Right, some black swan event.
Exactly. I mean, that's the nightmare scenario.
What happens then?
If Bitcoin crashes, their stock probably crashes too.
Okay.
They could face margin calls, forced liquidations, even bankruptcy.
It would be a disaster.
It would. It would show that even the smartest strategies could be undone by forces outside of their control.
So it's not just them. It's like the whole crypto world has to succeed for them to succeed.
They're part of this larger ecosystem, and they're at the mercy of it to some extent.
So they can't control everything.
No, they can't. And that's what makes this a risky investment.
Right.
It's not enough to just believe in MicroStrategy. You have to believe in Bitcoin.
They have to have a high risk tolerance.
Exactly, because it's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, so Bitcoin is like the big wild card. But are there other things that could affect them?
Oh, absolutely. Things they might actually be able to control.
Like what?
Regulation is a big one.
Okay, right. Governments are still figuring out crypto.
Exactly. And new regulations, I mean, those could change everything.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's price, how MicroStrategy can even operate.
So you got to keep an eye on what's happening in the regulatory landscape.
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the competition.
Okay, yeah, the other players.
Right now, MicroStrategy's kind of unique.
Yeah, they're in their own category.
This blend of software company and Bitcoin holding company.
Right.
But what if others start copying them?
Oh, yeah, what if everyone jumps on the bandwagon?
Exactly. They'd lose that first mover advantage.
It wouldn't be special anymore.
Right. And their stock price could suffer.
So they can't just sit still.
No, they need to keep innovating.
Keep evolving.
Show that they're more than just a Bitcoin holder.
Yeah, stay ahead of the game.
Exactly. And, they shouldn't forget about their software business entirely.
Right, that's still part of who they are.
It is. It's a source of revenue, expertise.
So maybe they could, find ways to connect that with the blockchain world.
That's an interesting thought. Kind of blend those two worlds.
Yeah.
Diversify their revenue.
Reduce the reliance on Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've looked at a lot of possibilities here. Some good, some not so good. What's the bottom line for our listeners? What should they be thinking about with MicroStrategy?
I think the most important thing is to remember that MicroStrategy is a fascinating case study,
Yeah,
but it's not a model for everyone.
right.
Their strategy is bold, it's innovative,
And risky.
incredibly risky. So before you even think about investing,
Yeah.
you got to ask yourself some serious questions.
Like, what are those questions?
First, do you believe in Bitcoin?
Okay, yeah.
Like, really believe in it?
Not just a quick buck.
Right. Not just as a way to make a quick profit.
Long term.
Yeah, as a transformative technology. If you don't have that belief,
Yeah.
don't invest in MicroStrategy.
It could make sense.
It wouldn't. Second, are you comfortable with volatility?
Oh, yeah. Big swings.
Huge swings. Because this is not a safe, predictable investment.
It's a roller coaster.
It is. And third, are you willing to do the work?
To stay informed.
To stay informed, to do the research? This is not a set-it-and-forget-it investment.
You got to be paying attention.
Absolutely. You have to be actively engaged.
So it's like investing in MicroStrategy is kind of like joining a club.
A club, yeah.
You got to be all in.
You got to be passionate about it. You got to be willing to put in the effort.
Okay, so we've gone deep on MicroStrategy.
Deep, deep dive.
Their big Bitcoin bet, their challenges, their future.
It's a company that's really challenging conventions.
Yeah, they're definitely shaking things up.
It shows how much the financial landscape is changing.
Big time. New technologies, new risks, new opportunities.
And it's up to each of us to decide how we want to be a part of that.
Whether we want to jump in or just watch from the sidelines.
But no matter what you do, knowledge is power.
Absolutely. The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
That's the key.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time.